She sat there, silent. No tears, no trembling hands, no desperate cries for justice. Just a stillness that made everyone in that courtroom uneasy. The judge glanced down from the bench, eyebrows knit. The prosecutor shuffled papers, avoiding her gaze. Even the defense attorney, known for shredding witnesses, cleared his throat and hesitated, because this wasn't just any case. This was a case that shook the city. A double homicide, a vanished gun, and a girl who hadn't spoken a word since the night it happened. Her name was Lena Myraj, 19 years old, college freshman, and the only person found alive at the crime scene. The media called her the silent witness. Social feeds were filled with theories. Was she traumatized? Was she hiding something? Or worse, was she the one who pulled the trigger? But no one could get a word out of her. Not the police, not the therapists, not even her own family. For 43 days, she remained mute until today. Courtroom packed, cameras rolling. Everyone waited to see if she would finally speak. And then, as the lead detective raised his voice, slamming a photo of the victims onto the witness stand, Lena blinked, lifted her chin, and for the first time, she spoke. Just one word. But that word shattered everything. That single word echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot. A whisper, really, but it hit harder than any scream. She said, "Run." The prosecutor froze. The defense attorney dropped his pen. Even the judge leaned forward, eyes wide. "Run," someone repeated. "Run who?" Lena didn't move. Her eyes didn't even blink, but her lips moved again. This time, 2 words. He ran. Gasps filled the room. A ripple went through the gallery, like a silent wave of panic. Was she finally revealing the killer? Was this a confession? A clue? Or the trap? The lead detective stood up slowly. He had questioned her for weeks after the murders. Her hands had been covered in blood. The victims, her roommate and the roommate's boyfriend, were found stabbed and shot. The weapon had vanished. And Lena, just sitting on the floor, blank-faced, motionless. Everyone assumed shock, trauma, PTSD. But now this didn't feel like shock. It felt deliberate. She was choosing her moment, choosing her words. And the courtroom realized they were no longer leading this case. She was. The bailiff stepped closer, not because Lena was dangerous, but because the room suddenly felt like danger. The judge adjusted his glasses, voice trembling for the first time. "Miss Lena, who ran?" No reply. The room fell into a suffocating silence. But her fingers moved, just her fingers. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out something. Tiny, folded, like a piece of gauze? No, paper. The guards rushed toward her. The judge shouted, "Let her be!" And slowly she unfolded it. It wasn't a note. It was a torn photo, one half, burned around the edges. The image, 2 girls. One was Lena, the other unknown, smiling. Behind them, a military tent. And scribbled in the corner of the photo, a name, Sergeant Ellis. The detective's face drained of color. He knew that name. Ellis wasn't dead. He wasn't even a suspect. He was the one who found the bodies. And he was the first one to say Lena had snapped. But now she was pointing him out, not with words, but with that one picture. And suddenly, the whole story began to crack. Detective Collins, the one who had stood by Ellis since day one, stood frozen. His hand was halfway to his gun, not to draw it, but like his instincts didn't know what else to do. The judge leaned in. "Bailiff, bring that photo forward." Lena didn't flinch as it was taken from her hand. Everyone watched as the judge inspected it. "Who is this?" he asked quietly. The lead prosecutor whispered, "That's Sergeant Ellis. He's our key witness." But the judge shook his head slowly, eyes still locked on the scorched image. "No, not just a witness. He's part of the origin." He was there, back in the courtroom gallery. Someone suddenly stood up, a woman, late 40s, trembling. "I know that tent," she said. "That's not from here. That's a foreign deployment, peacekeeper base in Najaf, Iraq, 2008. A murmur spread again, louder this time. Lena was only 25. She would have been a child in 2008. And yet, that's her in the photo. Impossible, right? Unless this wasn't about this case at all. Unless this was a replay, a cycle. The defense attorney leaned toward the judge. We need that man, Ellis, brought in now. But Ellis wasn't in the building anymore. His car had been missing for over 3 hours. He'd vanished, just like the murder weapon, just like the truth. They put out a bolo on Sergeant Ellis, statewide, federal, even military channels. But by dawn, it was clear Ellis hadn't just run. He'd planned this. The evidence began to unravel like threads from a rotten uniform. Security footage from the precinct? Gone. His service records? Redacted. His deployment logs? Marked classified, under an old defunct clearance. And then came the phone call. Lena was sitting in a gray interview room now, a single flickering bulb above her. The detective handed her a phone. No number, just static, then a voice. Calm, quiet, familiar. You said one word, Lena. You opened a gate that should have stayed closed. She didn't speak. The voice continued. We both know what you saw in the Jaff, but they don't know who you really are, do they? Lena finally whispered, Why did you frame me? Silence. Then, because someone had to carry the blame, and you were the only one who remembered. Click. Silence again. But the damage was done. Outside the room, the prosecutors stared through the one-way glass. Shaken, pale, silent, because they realized something horrifying. Lena wasn't the criminal. She was the last surviving witness of a government-sanctioned cover-up. And Ellis? He wasn't just a missing officer. He was the architect of the lie. The courtroom was full. Lena sat in silence. Hands cuffed, uniform stripped of all insignia. Reporters clicked their cameras like vultures. And then the defense rose with a single file. Old, dusty, labeled Project Obsidian. Whispers flooded the courtroom. The prosecutor objected. The judge squinted at the label, then gave a slow nod. The file opened. Inside were satellite photos, thermal scans, mission briefings, and one photograph, black and white, partially burned. A mass grave, dozens of bodies, one body tagged, Ellis, SGD. Gasps. The room froze. The defense lawyer spoke. According to these logs, Sergeant Ellis died 3 years ago, yet he interrogated my client last week. Who, then, is wearing Ellis's face? A cold dread filled the room. Lena turned slowly, because in the back row, a man had just stood up, military haircut, tactical boots, and a face that looked exactly like Sergeant Ellis, but older, sharper. He walked out before anyone could stop him, and just like that, he vanished again. 3 weeks later, Lena stood before a sealed hangar, somewhere in the Mojave, free but not safe. The charges were dropped, but the questions weren't. Her voice still haunted encrypted networks. Intelligence agencies were monitoring her every move. Whispers of Project Obsidian were being buried again. But Lena wasn't done. She wasn't built for silence anymore. She had found something in those files. Coordinates. Times. A meeting spot. So, one night, under a dying moon, she went back. Same ridge, same wind, same silence. And there, waiting in the dark, was a man with Sergeant Ellis's face. He didn't aim. He didn't speak. He just stared. Then, in the gravel at her feet, he traced a single word, reset, and walked away. Not a threat, not an answer, just one word, like before. But this time she understood the project wasn't over. It never had been. She turned to leave, not running, not scared, just ready, because now she was the anomaly, the variable, the one they didn't control. And sometimes the system forgets who it trained. Fade to black.